In contemporary Nigeria, Ndigbo are always striving for a brighter future, driven by the resilience they have and the determination. But there are current challenges, particularly in the political and the economic spheres. Particularly, there's growing momentum for inclusivity, with the Igbo community aspiring to break barriers and take on leadership roles, including the presidency and vice presidency. But at the lower levels, there are struggles. When streets that had Igbo names are renamed to the names of the indigenous people, what is that telling us? Are there more answers than questions to this? We'll be taking a look at what is happening in the country, especially as regarding identity politics and ethnic tension. This is the Eastern Eye. I'm Alex Obodo. You're welcome back to the Eastern Eye here on AFIA TV, a program that X-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. Tonight, I'm joined by Charles Oputa, popularly known as Area Fada. He's a singer, songwriter, and producer. He's also an activist. He joins me tonight from Lagos, Nigeria. Good evening to you, Charles Oputa, Area Fada. Thank you for joining us on the Eastern Eye. And here in the studio with me, thank you. Good to see you. And
yeah, same here.
Yeah, and in the studio with me tonight is Ndubuisi Enechi Onyima. He is a former chairman of APGA, Enugu State. Thank you so much, Ndubuisi.
Thank you, Alex, and welcome to our viewers.
All right, so let me start the conversation with you, Area Fada. So the signboard that has borne your name for some time now, for quite a long time, suddenly the name has been changed. But looking at it left and right, center and forward, if you like, that's not the real story, isn't it? What do you think is the real story behind the change in that bus stop's name?
The real story is that there's a change of name. That's the real story. It has been changed to some other name aside from Charlie Boy Bus Stop. Now, their reason for doing that, I don't know. But if you ask me, I think it's a little bit silly, a little bit petty, you know. I mean, you know, these things don't get given to you by the government or any politician or, you know, it's just for your contribution, you know, when you were in that vicinity. And I think the brand gave it his best. I've done quite a whole lot for that community in Bagada back in the days. So, I mean, there are records for that. People can go verify, you know. So, I don't know why people do what they do, you know. But it's really neither here or there because we have very terminal problems to deal with than just a change of name, because a change of name is what it is, a change of name. But if you've left certain impressions on people's heart, I think that's where it matters the most.
So just let's stay on this a bit. The change of that bus stop isn't the only name change that has happened in Lagos recently, isn't it?
Well, this is the one getting more play, and this is the one that concerns me, you know, because my name is involved. So I don't know what else they're doing, you know, but changing of street names. Nah, my brother. You know, I don't see how it helps.
Yeah.
I don't see the logic in all of that. So I don't know. But they know better. So if it asks them to, there you guys.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Let me get to Ndubuisi Enechi Onyima too. What do you think about this? Because this is just one incident. I mean, we are talking about his own because he is known. But there is a long list that's been on social media, and it's actually confirmed to be correct. More than 20 names of places and monuments renamed from what they were before, not just the ones with Igbo names. If that name is not Yoruba, it's changing to a Yoruba name. So talk to us about where this is taking us.
Well, I'd like to follow from where Charlie Boy stopped at. we have bigger problems. We have a lot, many bigger problems in Nigeria to, worry about a change of name. And a lot of times, I've been in the politics long enough to know that all kinds of reasons can be why the names were changed. And, but like Charlie Boy said, you really don't know why the names were changed. And the people who impute ethnic reasons to it must also realize that the names were probably put there in the first place by people of the same ethnic group. For me, I don't think for me a name change at this time is not a major problem for us. I think that some of these things are distractions to take us away from the problems that face us, and a lot of times they catch us in the act. They do these things and we forget about the hunger, we forget about the, several problems that all of us should confront together, and we focus on the change of name. Having been around, and I know that anytime, the other day, University of Maiduguri was changed to Muhammad Buhari, there was an uproar. Anytime there's a change of name in Nigeria, because people don't get explanations about why things happen. There's always an uproar. So it's difficult to pinpoint why the names were changed. But like I said, it's difficult for me to impute clear ethnic biases on a group of people. Maybe you could input it to the person who has changed it, but not to an ethnic group, because those names were probably named by people from those same ethnic groups. So we must be very careful, But what is important for me is that today in Nigeria, change of name shouldn't be what the rest of us are talking about. We have bigger problems that we should address and we should confront. This is a distraction for me.
All right. Okay. There are reactions. Area Fada, let me come back to you. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, has condemned the arbitrary renaming of streets, bus stops in Lagos. I'm sure you will have seen that. He's criticized the ongoing trend of renaming streets and public spaces without following constitutional procedures or consulting residents, describing the actions as unlawful and undemocratic. He said Charlie Boy bus stop, renaming it to Bado bus stop by the former chairman of Bariga Local Government Council. He also cited reports that 2 streets being named after President Bola Tinubu and Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, as well as industrialist Aliko Dangote, alleged renaming of these streets in honor of the late Mr. Herbert Mwigwe and President Tinubu. He said a lot of things. He said, according to him, the sections violate the provisions of 1999 Constitution as amended, which clearly vests the responsibility for naming and numbering streets exclusively in local government councils. You referenced a few other things. The key legal precedent, Chief Obi Ume versus Abuja Metropolitan Management Council, in which a court ruled that only the Abuja Municipal Area Council, AMAC, has the authority to assign names to streets and roads within its jurisdictions. I'm sure that you know a thing or two about law. Your father was a real sage, was a George that was known both within and outside. Justice Chukwudi Oputa, may God rest his soul. So I'm sure you are, I don't want to say you're a student of the Constitution. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, Charlie Boy. There is a constitutional side to this. Do you intend to look at it in that direction?
What thing I want to can do? Now make them rechange them to Charlie Boy, that it must be Charlie Boy. We don't talk, say this is not our problem. So all that long grammar about constitution and all of, concern me. Okay, as they don't change them, let's just move on. You understand? It's left for the people, because not me go put them there. I didn't put it there. It was the people who started to call it Charlie Boy bus stop. Okay, so whether it's constitutional right or not be constitutional, a lot of people have spoken on that. But like I said, it smells funny. It's damn outright different shades of pettiness, So that will not concern me. All right, so I want, what I'm hoping to see that young people they are finally coming to the light, for them to understand that the salvation of this country lies in their very hands. No Messiah is coming. Jesus is not coming tomorrow. Nobody is coming to save anybody. Unfortunately, we're in this mess where we have allowed the worst of us to lead the best of us. Now we allow them. It's not their fault, because they're doing what they know how to do best. Okay? If we're talking about pettiness, where's that coming from? It's their old playbook. That's what they do. Or otherwise, explain to me why, when they are stealing our money, you see Igbo man there, you see Yoruba man there, you see Fulani man there. They all congregate to chop the money and steal the money. But when it comes to politics, because for them, it's divide and rule. They know what they're doing now. So if this is like this, you can now start to imagine how 2027 is going to look like. But like I keep saying, you can't make omelets without breaking eggs.
That's correct. Yes, you've referenced something very interesting, 2027. So is it possible that this has something to do with 2027? Because the 2023 election also threw up some ethnic questions, where especially people from the Southeast were not allowed to vote in many places in Lagos. Is this about 2027? Is this about who should be president or who should continue to be president?
You know, with the Yahoo boys in power, with the criminality in power, nobody knows anything. No. I don't know nothing. But I think they still have that old playbook. And what we must ensure is that they don't pitch us against each other again, because we should be hip to that game. Don't you think so? We should be hip to that game. As long as we don't allow ourselves to be hoodwinked by these criminals, then maybe we'll stand a better chance of turning this around.
All right, I'll come back to you in a minute or two. Charlie boy, let me come back to you, Ndubuisi Enechi Onyima. Is this about 2027? You've said repeatedly, and also Charlie boy said the same, that we have bigger problems. What are these problems you've been referencing?
Problem of hunger, problem of unemployment, problem of poverty. We need to start, trying to get this country together. We need to try to engage our people so that they can be happy. If you go around the place, everybody's unhappy. There's a lot of suffering, particularly at the lowest levels. And those are the problems government needs to start thinking about solving. About 2027, it's possible that it's about 2027, because for me, the last 6 months, all I've heard about is 2027. It's like we've taken, nobody's talking about governance again. All we're talking about people, governors jumping from one party to the other, senators jumping from one party to the other, all positioning for 2027. So anything can be imputed to 2027. But what Charles said that I like is that we must ensure that they don't break us. Because some of these narratives are to throw something in that will change our trend of thought. And the change that must happen in Nigeria can only happen if all of us come together and say, this is what we want. So whether a bus stop is named Charlie Boy or anything else, it's not good. It's for me today, I can tell you without even thinking about it very seriously, that bus stop will be called Charlie Boy bus stop in the next 1 year. That bus stop may really be called Charlie Boy bus stop in the next 2 to 3 years, so whether the name has been changed or not. So it's not something that we need to worry about now. What we need to worry about is the direction the country is going to. How do we mobilize the young people who have realized that they need to be a part of what is happening, to come together and decide where we want to go. That is what is important to me.
All right, that's what's important. Mr. Charles Oputa, let me come back to you now, because at the end of the day, there is different, you've been referenced, you said that's their playbook. Is this a book that's, I wanted to ask where did they keep the playbook, but just give us a sense of what's in that playbook. Does it look like
I just said it.
Yes.
I said when it comes to stealing, all tribes are represented.
Absolutely.
Why is it that when it comes to choosing somebody who will lead, when it comes to the actual politics, why is it that they keep pitching us against one another? Why? That's something from the old playbook, divide and rule. That's what it's called. Okay? Now that time you go know who be Muslim, Christian, who come from Igbo land, who hates who, Yoruba land is a no man's land, and all that crap that doesn't address the problem on ground. I'm just hoping that in my lifetime, that the people, the one group, my constituency, so to speak, of exceptional youths, that they're beginning to see the light. Because if any group of people will save this country, it has to be those exceptional youths that I keep talking about. And then it's not an all-comers party, but let people not be deceived. We're not going to have this kind of change without rocking the boat. Where blood no go flow. It's not possible because criminals are all over the place. And when they assume those kind of positions that they shouldn't even be allowed to come anywhere near it, but because of their thirst for blood and evil, that is why most of my brothers and sisters are afraid. How do we deal with these people? But the youths, I can tell you for sure, I know that they have the answer. And it's a question of time. And when they are ready, then go call this father. Say, Father, go in front, go and mount your position.
All right, that sounds rather triumphant. Ndubuisi Enechi Onyima. So he's referenced something very interesting, and that's about the dynamics of how there's power play, but then when it's time to do the looting, there seems to be an agreement. But when it's time to get into leadership selection, there is some level of dichotomy. Do you think that we've reached that point in this country where it needs to be sorted out? That dichotomy needs to die?
Well, for me, there are issues that will always exist with politicians. I've been around politics long enough to know that divide and rule has worked for so long, and they're not going to stop using it. But there's also something I would like to, us not to help politicians do. Politicians, they determine our narrative. Every day they throw up one thing and we leave everything and start discussing that thing. And that is what I'm hoping that both us, the Nigerians and the press, will understand early and say, no, if we are talking about A, let's focus on it. Don't come to go and tell me that University of Maiduguri has been renamed and then we leave everything we are discussing and start talking about University of Maiduguri. It's not going to take us anywhere. I personally don't think that any Nigerian is better than the other. Democracy does not promise you the best person. What democracy promises you is the person that the most people want. So for me, the conversation I want to have now is about electoral reforms. How do we guarantee that each person's vote counts? How do we guarantee that the person who emerges at the end of the day is the person who we voted for? If we guarantee that, if that works and that is done properly, then over half of our problems are solved. And that is the conversation I want all of us in Nigeria to focus on now. Electoral reforms. We're going to 2027. We're going for an election. How do we guarantee, having seen what happened in 2023, how do we guarantee that in 2027 that the votes will count? Because if we can't guarantee that, everything we're doing now will probably become a waste at the end of the day. So I'm interested in the conversations that we have. I'm interested in not allowing politicians to dictate our conversations, because that is what normally happens. We need all to focus on getting things that will help us as a polity. And one of the most important things is electoral reforms. Will the votes count? That is critical for me. And that is critical for our democracy. If it won't count, then all these elections democracy, where we seem to be wasting our time. So everything we need to do to make sure that the votes count is what we should be talking about now. Yes, then all these side attractions will be, once we vote in anybody generally and we say this is the person we want, it's easy for us to accommodate that person whether he's doing well or not. So democracy assumes that the votes must count. And that is the conversation I want us to have now. That's the conversation I want everybody to focus on.
All right.
Let's leave whether a street is renamed, whether a university is renamed, and focus on what will affect us on a day-by-day basis.
Great. We'll take a quick break now. When we return, I'll find out from Charlie Boy whether he believes the votes will count in 2027, and he used to lead a movement called Our Mumu Don't Do. I'd like to also find out whether he's still at the forefront of leading that group. Join us after the break. Welcome back to the Eastern Eye here on AFIA TV. My name is Alex Obodo. I still have my guest, Ndubuisi Enechi Onyima, here in our Enugu studios, and Charlie Boy joining us from Lagos, Nigeria. Area Fada, you were leading a movement, I want to believe, called Our Mumu Don't Do. Do you think that the music has changed now? If there's a bigger word for Mumu, is that what is going on now?
I will always say, sometimes it be me like say, our mumu na factory fitted. Sometimes it be me like say, our mumu na follow come. I can't for the life of me imagine why so many of us are so damn ignorant and so foolish. I mean, Igbo people, they talk, they say, he who is down needs fear no fall. We know, say, now for ground we did now, because after Obasanjo's, it became like, that's to me, or my personal opinion, it became like all subsequent tenures were just riddled with corruption. Okay? And like, I think the last speaker, Uche Abi.
Ndubuisi Enechi Onyima.
Ndubuisi. Like Ndubuisi have said, the thing we need to worry about is whether our votes will count this time around. That is what should be discussed. That is what should be at the front burner. Because if not so it take happen for 2023, it's likely to happen again, because now the people who were on the outside wanting to get in, got in through the back window. That there is also a likely possibility that they will want to try the same thing. I mean, if there are no consequences for people's action, what do you expect? That's how criminality grows amongst us. What do you expect, really? Because so far, look at the makeup of the team. It smells like a crime scene. I'm sorry. It's incredible. I mean, what's happening? It's not fair. It's not fair to our Eastern brothers. It's not fair to Nigerian. I don't understand this zoning. I will never understand it. As far as I'm concerned, may the right person who the public feels is right for the job, may they be the one doing the job. So, yeah, how do we go back to the polls and make our vote count? That should be the number one priority. That should be on every lips. Yeah.
Just like somebody will ask, is it rocket science for votes to count? Like someone even argues that
it's not rocket science, but you have mad people here. You have criminals. This is a mafia.
Yeah, someone says yes. You actually know how many votes you have cast and how many votes that have been counted, but it doesn't quite tally when the results are announced. They're saying that the problem is not with the votes you're casting.
When you have got everybody now and you're spreading the cash and is stomach infrastructure and all of that, and you see people, a few people, not a lot of them, a few people with known integrity, you know, go call them. Now criminals you go invite. Now fellow criminals where you go invite. That's the problem now. Because once this Yahoo boys, once they enter a government, it's difficult to take it out, to take it away from them. People who can kill, snatch, run with it. Hey. But nothing is ever in perpetuity. This too has to, I think it's coming to an end. But I know that it will get worse before it gets better.
All right. So, Ndubuisi Enechi Onyima, do you believe that it will be darkest before dawn, just like Charlie Boy put it?
Of course, it normally gets darkest before dawn. The challenge is knowing when it is darkest, so that we know when to expect the dawn. That's the challenge.
So that's the mystery for everyone to solve.
You would think that it is darkest today, then 1 year down the line, you find that it's darker. So the challenge is knowing when it will be darkest before the dawn. But of course, we need to be optimistic about dawn for us to move forward as a nation. And then let me come to your question about the votes counting. Recall that we all celebrate June 12th because we assume that the person who we voted for won the election, which means that in Nigeria, we all agree that the votes can count. And then if you don't take away the post-election maneuvers of 2023, the first election, the votes counted. And those, the votes that counted were reflected in the IREF before they stopped uploading. So the votes can count, but we need to do what we need to do to ensure that it counts. In 2023, with the electoral reforms, I actually really believed that the elections will work. I actually really believed that with the electronic voting and electronic transmission, that the person who we vote for will emerge. So it was something like American Wonder when they stopped transmission and started talking about glitches. And that is why we are where we are. Because of those glitches, we went to court. The courts kind of sustained what the negativity that happened. And then since 2023, we have had elections that are worse than the previous elections that generated the reforms. So that is the challenge why 2027 is we're even more afraid of 2027 than 2023. Because between 2020 and 2027, we've had elections in Edo and some other states, and we know how those elections went. Much worse than 2023. So if nothing is done between now and 2027, remember that a lot of people participated in 2023 because of the new Electoral Act. That's why a lot of people participated. Now the courts have, given the impression that that Electoral Act is not law and cannot be enforced. So if we don't do something between now and 2027 to encourage people to say your votes will count, then I wonder what is going to happen in 2027. It's a very delicate situation. That is why I say, for me, the only conversation we should be having now is electoral reform. Every other thing we should throw to the sides and focus on making sure the votes count.
So who should be spearheading these electoral reforms. I've been hearing about electoral reforms since 1999.
The challenge,
but it doesn't look like the reforms are reforming.
You know, we have many challenges. Because the political parties are the foundation of our democracy. Because the political parties don't function properly, it's now come down to individuals to start championing causes that parties should champion. So now, who is going to work towards the electoral? All of us. The National Assembly members are going around the states on constitutional changes. It is time for us to impress on them the need for us to focus on, passing laws to legitimize that electoral act that we changed. If we do that, then we have moved a step forward. Because I don't understand why we talk about democracy every time. Democracy, we are in a democracy. Votes never count. What kind of democracy are we in? Votes never count. After every election, almost everybody goes to court to contest the election. We take that circle 4 years down the line, same thing, everybody goes to court. So at the end of it, it is the courts that determine who is elected and who is not elected, which I do not think is the idea of democracy. So for us, and like I said here some time ago, we are all victims. Look at the guys who are running around now to do opposition, to remove the people in government. They were the people who put them there. And at the time they put them there, they thought they would be in government for 100 years. 4 years down the line, they are opposition. Less than 4 years down the line, they are opposition. So even the guys who are in power today, if things don't work and we don't do things properly, it's like throwing a stone in the market. You don't know who is going to hit. Tomorrow you become a victim. So let us address the things that will affect us and move us forward as a nation. There are no winners in Nigeria. We've all been victims one time or the other. Even the president today, there was a time he was on the receiving end. So you would think that when he comes into power, looking at where he has come from, he would want to say, no, at this situation that happened to me, I don't want it to happen to anybody. Let's fix this system, so that at the end of the day, Nigeria can move forward.
So, Area Fada, I think it was John Pepper Clark who has a very touching poem. I think The Casualties. I think that's what it is. John Pepper Clark, if my memory serves me right. He said, the casualties. At the point he said, we are all casualties. So, but for how long really will everyone be in that state of be in that casual state, if you like? For how long will Nigerian people be casualties to their own political system?
It's up to them, because the set of rulers that we have today, they are not from Benin, they are not from Ghana, they are amongst us, okay? But why we choose to let evil, dangerous people lead us is what I don't understand. But like I said, to end this discourse, I'm praying and hoping that those exceptional people that I always talk about, that they will rescue this country, because we're on our last lap. And as far as 2027 is concerned, I think it's going to be it's going to be an earthquake. Nigeria will either have to be shocked into submission or shocked for the first time ever to do something productively, collectively, for themselves. Okay, because the way I see it, it's not about APC, PDP, it's about the rich, the haves, and the have-nots. That's the bottom line.
I really have to thank you so much, Charles Oputa, Charlie Boy, Area Fada, singer, songwriter, producer, and activist. Thank you for talking to us tonight on the Eastern Eye.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, Ndubuisi Enechi Onyima, we'll continue the conversation with you. With everything that has panned out in the country, someone says that Nigeria deserves the government it is getting. I mean, is this a true depiction of what Nigerians deserve, the kind of government they are getting? Do you also believe that the Nigerian people are just spectators, that they are not doing anything about their situation?
Well, for me, who is part of a political class, it's difficult to really do something in an unorganized way unless you're calling for a revolution. And one of the biggest challenges of a revolution is that the political class uses hunger to hold us down. And it is difficult for most people when they're thinking about where their next food is going to come from, where their next school fees is going to come together and focus on the things that matter to all of them. So the situation we're in is not different from the situation where, a lot of other countries were in when a change occurred. Now, I think that because the Nigerian president is a very powerful president, I think that we'll either have a revolution or we'll be lucky to have somebody who is patriotic enough, who loves Nigeria enough to want to die for Nigeria. And when we have that kind of person, then we can have conversations about how to move the country forward. Now, that brings another question, the question of, is 4 years enough to build a foundation for Nigeria to move forward? Is 8 years enough? Now, if you look at countries where things have changed, you'll find that you have one person who was there for a while and insisted on the right things being done for a long while, allowing the country to stabilize and build a foundation for growth. So, for me, there are a lot of things we need to look at in what we do. Is it working? It's obviously not working. How do we tweak it? What do we need to do? Do we change to maybe a 6-year, one-term president because of the contentions of re-election? We need to, what we are doing is absolutely not working.
Yeah, you made a very brilliant point. Do you think that Nigeria's major problem always seems to heat up whenever a president is seeking a re-election, whenever a governor is seeking a re-election? So it looks like in order to cling on to power, a lot of things can be, shredded or destroyed just for power to be in the hands of certain people.
The problems crop up whenever there's an election, whether it's a re-election or a new election. The problems crop up because...
But then if you have only 6 years, you give it your best shot, isn't it?
That's what I'm saying. So we need to, as a people, decide because, sometimes you copy things and you don't do it well, and it doesn't help you. What we are doing has not helped us. We need to tell ourselves the truth. Every 4 years, we say that it is now or never. If we don't get it right, this time Nigeria will disappear. The next 4 years will become worse than the previous 4 years. And we're still here. And people behave as if it's business as usual. I think we're riding our luck. And I think our luck may not run forever. So it is important for us to sit down. And like I said, there are no victors in this business. There are no victors. There are no victors. Look at the lineup of people who are in AGC. They were the victors of 12 years ago. Some of them were in PDP saying they will rule for 60 years. Some of them joined to bring in Buhari. Today, they are on the receiving end. So there are no victors if things don't work. And that is what I need us to understand. It is time for Nigerians to stand up and represent themselves. And I say it particularly looking at the ruling class. Because a lot of places, it is the ruling class that changes things. If the ruling class don't change things, then we'll have a revolution. And a revolution can, a revolution is like a riot. You don't know where it's going to end. So Nigeria is still at a place where we can sit together and adjust things for the benefit of all of us. We know the things that haven't worked. And what I find very funny is that in Nigeria, if anything works, we stop doing it. If anything seems to work, we stop it. where every day we celebrate June 12th. Why did June 12th seem to work? Because we had two political parties. The election was easier to manage. At a point, we reduced our political parties from 70 or 80 something to 18. The other day, I was reading that almost 100 applications for new political parties have been submitted. So, are we moving forward or are we moving backwards? So, I think for us, we need to sit down and say, this is what we want to do for the next 100 years, and stick to it and see whether it works. So, for me, if we want to do democracy, then elections must work. And like I always tell you, I'm now an advocate, if we are going to do democracy, of a two-party system. Because a two-party system allows easy elections to be conducted. The umpire, it's easier for the umpire to conduct the elections. You can use any methodology that you want. We could only use option A4 when we used it because we had two parties. If we had 72 parties or 18 political parties, we couldn't have used option A4. We wouldn't have had people lining up behind 72 people. It wouldn't have worked. So let's go back, see what has worked for us. Because there are things that have worked. And then see how we can reintegrate those things into what we are doing and then improve on it to make Nigeria better. That's my own position. No? If we are going to continue doing this democracy the way we are doing it, it is not going to work. It is not going to work. Elections must work for we to say we are practicing democracy. If elections don't work, democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people. So the first ingredient is that the votes must count. And that is the only way we can be government for the people, by the people. So that is where we are. But I'm looking at a situation where with Nigerians tell themselves the truth. We talk about strong institutions and strong people. The institutions we have are the same institutions that are elsewhere. If we had weak people in America, I keep saying it, Trump probably would have been re-elected. You know, because it was the Republicans at certain places who said, no, America is bigger than any candidate. So we need Nigerians who are patriotic. We need Nigerians who are ready to do the right thing. These institutions are the same. Institutions are good as the people who man it. And I can give you clear examples of the judiciary. You were talking about Charles and his father. It's the same judiciary. Nothing has changed. The same judiciary, but you have different people of different characters. And you have, even if you talk to lawyers, they will tell you we have better judgments, we have better court presence, we have better ways. You know, before it used to be better. But it's the same laws, but different people. So it comes down back to the people. What kind of Nigeria do we want? And how do we want to get it done? That is critical for me. Yes, that is very critical for me. Like Charlie Boy said, nobody is going to come from heaven to save us. Nobody. You know, we keep running around circles. Today we are victims, tomorrow we are on top. And then we learn nothing from it. The next day you die off.
Absolutely.
So something has to give. Something has to give, yes. And the political class has a responsibility because they brought us to where we are. So they have a responsibility.
All right. I have to thank you so much. Ndubuisi Enechi Onyima is the former chairman of APGA here in Enugu State. Thank you for your perspectives.
Thank you, Alex. It's always nice being here.
All right. That's the Eastern Eye for tonight. We'll be here tomorrow night for another episode of the show. My name is Alex Obodo. Good night.